There's a specific failure that belongs in its own category. Not the failure from laziness, where you didn't try, and you knew you didn't try, and the solution is to try. That failure is at least legible. It has a clear cause and a clear correction. I'm talking about a different one. The failure where you genuinely tried. Where you sat down on a Sunday night and thought it through. Where you made the plan, realistic, specific, achievable. Where you felt, in the way you sometimes feel at the beginning of things, that this time was different. That you had figured out what was needed, and you were going to do it. And you did. For a while. Long enough to notice progress. Long enough to start feeling like this was, in fact, who you were becoming. And then, for a reason that doesn't fully explain itself, a disruption, a difficult week, a travel schedule, a bad day that turned into 2, you stopped. And the next Sunday, you did it again. Plan, genuine intention, a few weeks, erosion, stop. The third time this happened, or the 5th, or the 7th, something shifted underneath the cycle. A quieter thought, almost never said out loud. Maybe this is just not something I can sustain. Maybe the men who have genuine discipline have something I don't. Maybe this is what my ceiling looks like. That thought is understandable. It is also wrong. Not wrong in the motivational, you can do it sense. Wrong in the precise analytical sense. It is a misdiagnosis. The problem is not a deficit in you. The problem is a flaw in the approach. Specifically, in the entire framework that most discipline content is built on. And once you see the flaw, the cycle stops making sense. Not because the work becomes easy, but because you stop doing the thing that guaranteed you would fail. Let me describe the most common framework for building discipline, because it is the one almost everyone uses and almost everyone eventually hits a wall with. It goes like this. Identify the outcome you want. Build a plan to achieve it. Apply effort. Measure progress. Maintain motivation by tracking results. This is the outcome-based approach. It is logical. It is the framework sold in every productivity book, every fitness program, every habit tracking app. And it fails. Not always in the first week, not always in the first month, but reliably, over time, for most people, in most domains that require sustained effort. Here's why. The outcome is external. It exists outside the self. A goal you want to reach, a result you want to produce. As long as the goal is not yet reached, the motivational system points toward it. But the moment circumstances make the goal temporarily unreachable, the disruption, the bad week, the period where progress is invisible, the motivation has nothing to point at. The engine runs on proximity to the goal, and when proximity is interrupted, the engine stalls. This is not a character failure. It is a structural problem. The approach was never going to produce consistent behavior over time, because consistent behavior over time does not run on outcome proximity. It runs on something else entirely. It runs on identity. The man who exercises every morning, year after year, through disruptions and difficult weeks and periods when progress is invisible, that man is not motivated every morning. He is not applying willpower every morning. He is not tracking his results and using the data to sustain his effort. He is simply someone who exercises in the morning. It is not a project he is completing. It is a thing he does because of who he is. The difference between those two sentences is the difference between the cycle you are in and the one you are looking for. Before examining the identity-based approach, it is worth being clear about why the alternatives fail. Willpower, the exertion of conscious effort to override the desire not to do something, is a finite resource. This has been studied extensively. The findings are consistent across contexts and populations. The capacity for self-control depletes with use. The decision to go to the gym at 6 a.m., made against resistance, draws from the same pool of cognitive resources as every other act of self-regulation in the preceding hours. By the evening of a demanding day, a day of difficult decisions, emotional management, social performance, and professional pressure, the willpower available for the evening routine is substantially diminished. This is not weakness, it is biology. Motivation is equally unreliable, for different reasons. Motivation is an emotion. It is present sometimes and absent others. The man who genuinely wanted to change his habits when he made the plan on Sunday evening is not lying when he doesn't feel the same pull on Thursday morning. The motivation was real. It was also transient. All emotions are. Building a discipline practice on motivation is building on a foundation that is, by its nature, unstable. Motivation will be present on good mornings and absent on difficult ones. The disciplined behavior needs to happen on the difficult mornings too. The approach that requires motivation to operate will not deliver this. The system that does not depend on willpower or motivation, that runs regardless of how the man feels on a given morning, is not a better technique. It is a different level of engagement entirely. It is the level of identity. Let's look at the specific mechanism by which outcome-based approaches fail. When you commit to a goal, to run 3 times a week, to read for 30 minutes each night, to write consistently, you are creating a relationship between your current self and a future outcome. The goal is the point. The behavior is the means. This creates a specific vulnerability. When the behavior produces visible progress toward the goal, the system works. The evidence of progress reinforces the effort produces more progress, the system is self-sustaining. When progress becomes invisible, when the scale doesn't move, when the writing doesn't improve noticeably, when the effort doesn't seem to be producing the outcome, the system breaks down. Because the behavior was in service of the outcome, and the outcome is no longer confirming the value of the behavior. This is when most people stop. Not because they are lazy, because the logic of the approach, the implicit deal between the effort and the result, has stopped holding. They are paying in and not receiving. The payment stops. The second problem is related. When the behavior is the means and the outcome is the end, every time you don't do the behavior, you are simply failing to achieve the outcome. The identity remains unchanged. You are still a person who is trying to run 3 times a week and currently failing. This framing produces shame. Shame produces avoidance. Avoidance produces more failure and more shame. The cycle is recognizable. The identity-based approach interrupts this cycle at its source by removing the identity of someone trying to achieve an outcome and replacing it with the identity of someone who is becoming a particular kind of person. Here is the shift. The question is not, what do I want to achieve? The question is, who am I becoming? These sound similar. They are structurally different. The outcome-based framework says, I want to be someone who runs regularly. So I will run until I have demonstrated the habit and it has become normal. The behavior is the means to the identity. The identity-based framework says, I am becoming the kind of man who runs regularly. Every run I complete is evidence of who I am. The identity is the foundation. The behavior is the expression. In the outcome-based framework, when you miss a run, you have failed to achieve the outcome. In the identity-based framework, when you miss a run, you have cast one vote against your identity. But identity is not changed by a single vote. It is built by the accumulation of many. This distinction changes the relationship to failure entirely. A missed session in the identity-based framework is not a system failure. It is a data point. One vote. You return to the next session not to restart from scratch, because the identity is not changed, but to cast the next vote. Researchers studying habit formation have documented the mechanism. Each small action is, in effect, evidence about the kind of person you are. A man who reads for 30 minutes on Tuesday night has added one piece of evidence that he is the kind of man who reads. The evidence accumulates. At some point, through consistent accumulation of small actions, the identity becomes genuinely real. The behavior is no longer effortful in the same way. It is what you do. You are not maintaining a habit. You are being yourself.
William James, the philosopher and psychologist who's often called the father of American psychology, wrote about this over a century ago, before the vocabulary of behavior change research existed. He observed that the most powerful force in human life was not willpower or intention or motivation. It was the accumulation of small, consistent actions. Each action, repeated, gradually deposits itself into the structure of character. What a man does consistently over time, that is who he becomes. Not who he wants to be, who he becomes. This is both clarifying and demanding.
Clarifying, because it removes the complexity from the question of how to build discipline. The answer is not a better system, a better plan, a better schedule. The answer is the next small action, cast as a vote for the kind of man you are becoming, repeated. Demanding, because it means that everything counts. The daily vote that seems too small to matter, matters. The decision made on a difficult morning, when the motivation is absent and the willpower is low, and the reasons not to are readily available, is one of the most important votes cast. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is exactly the moment when the identity is being tested and confirmed.
The man who acts consistently with his chosen identity on the easy mornings is building a habit. The man who acts consistently on the difficult mornings, who does it when he doesn't feel like it, not through force of will, but through the quiet clarity of who he is building a character. These are different things, and the difference is felt. The habit requires maintenance. Character simply expresses itself.
The Stoics had a concept for this. Askesis, from the Greek meaning practice, training, exercise. In the Stoic framework, askesis was not a warm-up for something else. It was the thing itself. Disciplined practice, the consistent, repeated, intentional doing of what one had decided to do, was not the method of achieving virtue. It was virtue, expressed in daily form. Epictetus, who had lived as a slave and who understood better than most what it meant to have no control over external circumstances, taught from a very specific starting point. The only thing genuinely ours, he taught, is what is up to us. Our judgments, our choices, the stance we take toward what happens. External outcomes, whether we achieve the goal, whether the results appear, these are not fully ours. They are influenced by our actions, but determined by factors we do not control. What is fully ours is the practice. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." This is the identity-based approach stated in its most concentrated form by a man who had no use for motivational platitudes. First say to yourself what you would be. Decide clearly what kind of man you are becoming. Not what you want to achieve, who you are in the process of becoming. Name it. Make it specific. Make it real as a self-concept rather than as a target. Then do what you have to do. Not when you feel like it. Not when motivation arrives. Not after one more good night's sleep. In the morning that is available. With the energy that is available. As the man you have decided to be, doing what that man does. The outcome is not in your control. The practice is. The man who has genuinely made the identity shift, who has moved from "I am trying to achieve X" to "I am the kind of man who does X," experiences discipline differently from the man who is not. Not because it has become easy, because it has become his. The next time you face a moment of discipline, the alarm before the run, the chair before the writing, the kitchen before the meal you committed to preparing, you will likely experience some version of the familiar question. Do I feel like doing this? This question is a trap. Not because the answer doesn't matter. Of course, you feel differently on different mornings. But because the answer to this question determines behavior in the outcome-based framework, and does not need to in the identity-based one. Replace it with this. Is this what the man I am becoming does? If you have been clear about the identity, if you have said to yourself, honestly and specifically, what kind of man you are in the process of becoming, then the answer to this question is almost always yes. Not, do I feel like it, but is this what I do? And the answer? Yes. This is what I do. This is who I am. Not yet fully, not irreversibly, but in this moment, this is the vote I am casting. This question works in the moments that matter most often. The difficult mornings, the disrupted weeks, the days when motivation is genuinely absent and willpower is genuinely depleted. In those moments, do I feel like it? Will often produce a no that is honest but irrelevant. Is this what the man I am becoming does? Produces a yes that is quieter and more reliable. Not a surge of motivation, but a clarity about who you are and what that means for the next 10 minutes. Take the 10 minutes. Cast the vote. Not for the outcome, for the identity. And then the next morning, do it again. This is how the man is built. Not in grand gestures or dramatic commitments or perfect streaks. In small, consistent votes, accumulated over time, for the kind of person you have decided to be. William James observed this over a century ago. Epictetus taught it 2,000 years ago. The research has confirmed it in the decades since. The shift is available now. In the next action you take or don't take in the direction of who you are becoming. cast the vote.
Come back to where we started. The cycle, the genuine intention, the reasonable plan, the beginning, the erosion, the stop. That cycle is not evidence of a character flaw. It is evidence of an approach that was not designed to produce what it was being asked to produce. Outcome-based discipline cannot sustain consistent behavior over time in the way identity-based practice can. Not because the intentions were weaker, but because the architecture was wrong. The man who shifts the question from "what do I want to achieve" to "who am I becoming" has not made discipline easy. Nothing makes discipline easy in the way the motivational content implies. He has made it different. He has moved from fighting himself every morning to expressing himself every morning. From applying effort to demonstrate something to someone to doing something because of who he is. From maintaining a habit to being a person. Epictetus taught that the work of building yourself is not the preparation for a life worth living. It is the life worth living. The askesis, the daily, repeated, deliberate practice of being the man you have decided to become, is not a means to an end. It is the thing itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, night after night, about the man he was trying to be. Not as an aspiration deferred to some future state, as a current project, a today project, of this morning project. What kind of man am I becoming? And then, is what I did today consistent with that? These two questions, asked daily, build something that no plan and no program and no tracking app can build. They build a self that is genuinely yours, constructed from the inside, confirmed in small daily acts. Becoming, gradually, the kind of man who does not struggle with discipline in the way you have been struggling. Because discipline, for that man, is not discipline anymore. It is just what he does.
Here's the one thing worth carrying. You are not trying to achieve the outcome. You are becoming the kind of man who naturally does the thing. Stop asking, do I feel like it? Start asking, is this what the man I am becoming does? If the identity is clear, the answer is almost always yes. And yes, this morning is all that's required. I'll see you in the next one.